Hey guys, this week we decided to do a little bit of work with Dom Barnes, one of the Tee Up Low players. Decided to give Andy a bit of a break from all the lessons, give him some time to practice, so we put some time with Dom this week. So, just going to run Dom swing through on the left, and one of the problems he was having was he had the occasional pulled shot, so the ball starts left, or a bit of a pull draw, so the ball starts left and then curves further left. And one of the issues Dom has is the club head overtakes the hands too quickly at times. And what that means is, basically, the club head, see how Dom's hands are in this position? The club head is swinging and overtaking the club head too fast. So as he's in this position, his hands will kind of stall, won't carry on moving forward, and the club will overtake too quickly, and that can cause issues with the club face alignment. So as the club head overtakes too quickly, we swing on the right now. If you watch, as you come down into impact, what will happen is the club face will start to point further to the left. So now Dom will hit shots now, or we'll have ball flights where the golf ball starts slightly to the left and continues going left, or it'll just start to the left and then continue, or it'll curve further left. So that was one of the issues he had. So ultimately, it was trying to slow down the degree the club head is overtaking the hands. And ideally, we'd like to see a little bit more shaft lean. So at this position here, this is where we'd like to see Dom's arms and the club head. This would allow his club face to point a little bit further to the right for him to start hitting some nice draws. But he has to start the ball further right. So, how are we going to improve his ability to get his hands further forward at impact? Well, we're going to start from impact and work our way backwards and identify the catalyst of the problem. So, swing on the left from the face on. If you notice, during the downswing, Dom's right arm stays on the side of his body. You can see, you can actually see some daylight there between his arm, between the inside of his arm and his body. Right where I put that line there, you can see some daylight there. So when he's in this position, his right elbow is stuck on the side of his body. He has no option now but to release his wrists in an attempt to hit the golf ball, so the overtaking rate is too quickly. So ideally, we'd like to see this elbow position a little more in front of the body. Okay, so it's not so much on the side. That's going to delay the amount of wrist release and the overtaking rate of the club head. So we have to ask the question then is, well, why is his arm on the side of the body? And that stems from the backswing and how the hips are moving and the orbit of the right arm. I want you to notice on the swing on the right how Dom's hips don't really turn and his right elbow is going to orbit kind of around his body. It's going to come round and onto the side of his body and behind his hip in the backswing. So you notice his hips don't really turn, and at this position now, if I draw a line up from where his hip bone is, which is roughly about here, his elbow is already stuck behind his hip. Okay, so if he turned his hips more and had his elbow a little tighter in front of him, all of a sudden we're going to change the sequence and the position of the right arm in the backswing, which will help us in the downswing, which will help us towards impact. However, he can't really turn his hips much from this setup position, where his weight is way back on his heels and he has quite considerable amounts of knee flex. There's a bit of a chain reaction really, all from this, trying to improve the impact position. There are almost 4 chain reactions. Each one has an effect on the other. So, first of all, we change the down the line view and we change the setup a little bit. I asked Dom to feel like his legs were a lot straighter and his back part of his belt was a lot higher than his front. And now you guys can see a considerable difference there. As you can see how his weight now is actually more in the middle of his feet, even though for him it feels like he's literally on the edge of his toes. His legs are a lot straighter and the pelvis is tilted more. So I'm just going to run this swing through on the right again just to Remind you guys what's happening. So his hips aren't turning and his elbow gets stuck behind his body. So the swing on the left, we've actually put a T-peg underneath Dom's right armpit to help keep his elbow down so his arms don't continue swinging behind his body. Now his sensation is for him to turn his hips and feel like the belt buckle is coming back and facing this camera. And you're going to notice there's a little bit of a difference here. See how his hips are turning sooner? His elbow is tighter down on his body. So he's actually made the same length of swing, but the club head hasn't gone away from him. It hasn't swung behind his body as much. Now if you draw a line from his hip bone, you can see the differences. Swing on the right as the elbow orbited around and behind the hip already. Swing on the left has the best chance of getting his arms down in front of his body. So let's have a look at this from face on. I'm just going to bring these swings up. So the swing on the left, couple of changes again we've made, as you can see from face on. First of all, most noticeably is the width of his stance. Dom's stance was getting a little bit too wide, and that's going to restrict his ability to turn his hips in the backswing. His right foot also is flared out, but we actually got him to flare it a little bit more on the swing on the right. It's not quite noticeable, but it was something we did work on. So you can notice how now the swing on the right, the feet are at least shoulder width. Swing on the left, his feet are almost outside of his shoulders. So I'm going to run the swing through on the left, up to the top of the swing. And this is where Dom is not turning his hips. His knees are staying level to the ground, his hips are staying level to the ground. And we know from the other angle, his right elbow is tucked around the back of his hips. Swing on the right, we run this through. Up to the top and stop. And you'll see the difference. You can now start to see how his hips are on a bit more of a tilted angle because he's turned his hips more. His left knee is bent and his right knee is straightened. Now that's a component of the best players in the world and the guys who hit the ball the furthest on. So from this position at the top now, Dom's feeling where water was to try and reduce the amount he was spinning his hips. So as we watch on the swing on the left, he starts to swing by turning his hips, which never gives his right elbow the chance now to get back in front of him. So when it gets down to level, when the shot gets level to the ground, you can see how his right arm is really on the side of his body. The swing on the right is a little bit more improved. There's still an area for improvement, but it's a lot better than the swing on the left. So swing on the right now, you're going to see him trying to slow down his hip turn and feel like his arms get down in front of him that much quicker. And you can see the difference. The swing on the left looks a lot more spinnier, the stance is too wide, and the arm's stuck behind his body too long. Swing on the right, narrower stance, a bit more composed, arms are down in front of his body a little quicker. And this has an effect on how he delivers the shaft towards the ball. Swing on the left, the shaft is pretty level and the club head's overtaken much quicker. Swing on the right, he's starting to add a little bit more shaft lean now, just a little, and we start to see a difference in the ball flight. So some pretty nice work there. It feels a bit strange for him, a bit alien, but it's work that needs to be done. So catch you guys soon.